The United Kingdom urgently sought the collapse of Germany throughout the Second World War. It became evident that cutting the Third Reich's energy supply would halt their war machine and lead to a swift British victory. While the idea did not pan out exactly how the United Kingdom wanted, the British Squadron 617 famously launched a daring attack on German dams. They used a new, specially designed bomb created for this mission. It could skip on the water like a pebble before blowing up the target. The British Air Ministry knew that the Ruhr Valley and its dams were of crucial importance to Germany's stability, even before the Second World War started. In particular, the Möhne Dam held the drinking water supply for the villages in the area. Together, the Möhne Dam and the Sorpe dams provided electricity for the region. The dams also supplied water for the canals and for steel processing. Destroying the two dams and others in the region would theoretically allow the British to disrupt German lives and halt their war machine. According to calculations made by the Royal Air Force, destroying them would require large bombs delivered with greater accuracy than the technology at their disposal. Therefore, no plans had been made to attack the Ruhr Valley. Operation Chastise was born backward, planned as a result of technology developments by the assistant chief designer at Vickers, Barnes Wallis. He first designed a 10-ton concept earthquake bomb that he wanted aircraft to drop from 40,000 feet above the ground. Since no British planes could fly that high with such a heavy payload, he began looking into other possibilities. The main challenge faced by Wallis was that German dams were protected by torpedo nets. His alternative was a 9,000-pound cylindrical bomb similar to a depth charge. These weapons had a hydrostatic fuse, meaning they would detonate underwater at a predetermined depth. Most importantly, the bomb's key feature was inspired by him bouncing pebbles across a water tub. The bouncing bomb would be released with a backward spin of 500 revolutions per minute. It would bounce over the water until the residual backspin sunk it, causing the explosion. The bouncing bomb was tested at the Building Research Establishment in May of 1942. The following month, it was used to partially demolish an obsolete dam in the Welsh Ellen Valley. In 1943, trials revealed that the bomb could be carried by modified Avro Lancaster aircraft. This meant the British would not have to wait for a bigger bomber to enter service in order to use the bouncing bombs. A new squadron was created to carry out Operation Chastise. Formed with 21 bomber crews selected from the No. 5 Group of the Royal Air Force, the team included Britons, Australians, New Zealanders, and Americans. Assembled in March of 1943, the group was initially known as Squadron X, but was later designated Squadron 617, and colloquially known as the Dam Busters. The squadron started training for low-altitude flight at night with a month left until the operation. Only their leader, Wing Commander Guy Gibson, was aware of the full plan. Avro Lancaster Mark III aircraft were modified for the mission. The planes had their internal armor and mid-upper turret removed so they would weigh less. The bomb bay doors were also taken out so that the bouncing bomb could hang below the fuselage. The strange shape and size of the upkeep meant that it could not be traditionally delivered. After testing, it was determined that it should be dropped from an altitude of 60 feet, while going at a speed of 232 miles per hour. The bomb was carried by 2 crutches, and once it was released, it would be spun by a motor so that it could reach the necessary speed to bounce. The targeted dams were the Möhne, Eder, and Sorpe. Aside from the torpedo nets, each presented unique challenges for the 617 Squadron. The Möhne dam was surrounded by forest hills, but the aircraft would be immediately exposed when they launched the attack. The curved gravity dam was 40 meters high and was possibly the easiest to take down despite leaving the bombers exposed during their attack. The Eder dam presented a greater challenge, since it could only be reached from the north and was harder to find. The topography of the hills around it made an attack unthinkable, which yielded the benefit of no stationed anti-aircraft weaponry. Finally, the Sorpe dam was the most difficult to attack. It was a different type of monster. The embankment dam had a watertight concrete core, with a church spire standing in the best path for an attack. 3 formations were assembled for the operation. The first 2 took off on the night of May 16th, while the third stood by as a reserve until the following day. Starting at 9:28 p.m., the 19 Lancaster planes of the 3 formations took off in groups of 3s, flying at only 1,000 feet above the ground in sea in order to avoid detection. Problems arose as soon as the British aircraft entered the Netherlands. From formation number 2, one plane had to turn back after enemy fire destroyed its radar. Another plane was flown too low and dove into the sea along with its bouncing bomb. Another plane was lost to enemy fire by Texel Island. One of its companions crashed into electricity pylons and fell near Halden. Its bomb was dropped but remained intact. Only the 5th plane of formation number 2 survived, partly because a leak at takeoff delayed the pilot by half an hour. Formation number 1 fared better. Only one of its 9 aircraft was lost before the mission started, when one of its bombers flew into high-voltage cables in Marbach and crashed. Guy Gibson, flying with the first wave, launched the first bomb at the Möhne Dam at 12:28 a.m. 5 aircraft had to bomb the dam to breach it. One of them was hit by enemy fire while making its run and ended up succumbing to the blast of its own bouncing bomb. 3 crew members from that plane successfully aborted the aircraft. The planes that remained headed towards the Eder Dam. The valley it's in was covered by low-lying fog, yet the dam was undefended because it was believed to be too difficult to attack for anyone to dare. One of the planes was damaged while dropping its bomb. The Eder Dam was eventually breached as well. The 2 waves left with bombs headed towards the Sorpe Dam. The earthen dam only saw 2 Lancaster planes, due to several problems with the other aircraft. Due to the topography, sending the bouncing bomb at right angles over the reservoir was too complicated. One of the planes almost crashed against the church spire next to it. The other did 9 runs before dropping its bomb. While it did hit, it only managed to blow up a part of the crest of the dam. The dam was mostly unaffected. 3 reserve planes were sent to the dam, but 2 of them never arrived. One was shot down by Hydroelectric. Another never found the target due to the dense fog. The one reserve plane that did arrive dropped incendiary bombs before dropping its bouncing bomb to lift the fog and get a clear view. The Sorpe Dam was hit, but was not breached. "19 crews had left base to conduct Operation Chastise. Only 11 returned. A total of 56 Royal Air Force members were lost in the operation, with 3 of them taken captive by Germany. The 617th Squadron was seen as heroes in the United Kingdom. Guy Gibson was given the Victoria Cross for his role, and was the most highly decorated Briton at the time. The bombing raid succeeded in the United Kingdom and among the Allies, as it captured the news cycle for months, increasing morale and suggesting hard-felt effects in Germany. British news reports varied in their casualty estimates, but continuously claimed that 50 or more German towns had flooded. Articles and radio communications claimed that thousands of Germans had been displaced, along with releasing stories about alleged civil disorder and disobedience stemming from a collapse of the area's government and economy. These stories, in many cases propagandist fantasies, were spread by the Allies. This was done not only within their own countries but in Germany as well, to demoralize their troops. Further rumors claimed that dirty bombed water was causing typhoid, and that the war production of the country was collapsing. However, for all its bravery and novelty, Operation Chastise did not nearly affect Germany as profoundly as the United Kingdom had hoped. The German economy did not face a long-term destructive crisis, energy shortages were not permanent, and steel production continued. Despite these truths, Germany's Ministry of Propaganda was facing an uphill battle. The rumors merged and blew up when combined with first-hand accounts of the explosions. It was difficult for German officials to reconcile the significant but limited effect of the British operation with the socially spread narrative of severe damage and uncertainty. To fight against weakening morale, the Germans withheld the names of the implicated dams from the public. They banned journalists and photographers from visiting the flooded areas. Despite this, conventional German wisdom shared by the majority of the invested population held that around 30,000 German lives had been lost. Even modern calculations for the losses incurred that day are imprecise estimates. That being said, more trustworthy historical observers estimate that around 1,000 Soviet prisoners taking part in forced labor and approximately 600 German civilians were lost. The Germans quickly worked on repairs and resumed regular activity in the region by September. Analysts have determined that for the Royal Air Force to induce the long-term collapse of Germany that it sought, they would have needed to destroy Sorpa and other smaller dams. The Royal Air Force would have also needed to bomb the pumping systems linking the dams and launch routine bombings to fight reconstruction efforts. It's also been assessed that the British attacked a less than optimal combination of dams. The standalone operation should have been just one step in a more extensive and sustained campaign. Still, Operation Chastise is remembered by the Allied nations as one of the most prominent air raids of the war.